I'm 27, so still relatively young. I go out every Friday and Saturday and have 8 to 15 drinks, usually closer to 8, but occasionally I drink a pint of liquor. I also drink very occasionally during the week, but since I have work the next day, I don't drink more than 2 to 4 drinks. So that's where I am. I drink 20 to 30 drinks a week. It hasn't negatively impacted my life except for probably a 10 to 15 pound weight gain since I graduated from college. However, I always feel awful on Sunday. Has anyone here quit drinking even though they were not necessarily a severe alcoholic? Story 1. I was drinking heavily for a while after I left college. Basically the same as you, but I would also have 4 to 6 beers most weeknights. I did not think it was really negatively affecting me until I stopped. I started to sleep better, lost weight, and became more productive. My mental health improved significantly as well. I did not exactly quit drinking, but I stopped buying alcohol to bring home and stopped going out with the express purpose of drinking. I still have the occasional big drinking day, and I probably have between 5 and 10 drinks a week now, but cutting back was a huge improvement for me. I am 25 years old, by the way. Story 2. This question is asked here every so often, and usually only non-drinkers respond. I have about 15 drinks a week. I am 33 years old. I am very active with long-distance running, so my weight has not increased, but stopping drinking would definitely improve my running. I just do not want to stop. I worked at a brewery for a few years 10 years ago, and that is when I really started to enjoy the taste. I usually do not drink hard alcohol, only beer and wine. Story 3. When I was your age, I was on a 3-year-long binge. For a whole year of that time, I don't think I had anything less than a buzz. More than once, I showed up to work still drunk from the night before and cracked a beer in the morning to help with paperwork and coast until I got to lunch. My roommates and I were drinking 6 to 9 tall beers at our local pub, which we called our office, plus whatever shots the servers would give us. It got to the point where we didn't even have to pay for a third of them. Shots were always free. We would stay about an hour past closing, chat with the staff, go down the street, close another bar, then head home and finish a 12-pack each. So about 30 to 40 drinks a night. That was 13 years ago. Now I'm down to maybe 3 to 12 drinks on the nights I drink, which is maybe once a month unless depression hits. Then I have to be careful not to make it a daily 3 to 6 to 12. Story 4. Friend, I'm going to say this gently. 20 to 30 alcoholic beverages a week is a problem, especially if this happens every week. That's over 100 drinks a month. Do the math over the course of a year. You may be functional and you might not feel it yet, but it's time to slow down. I partied hard from 18 to 29 and probably reached those same numbers at times, but not consistently. It's time to really take a look at what is going on and consider moderation. To answer the question, I am 33 years old and might have 4 drinks a month, occasionally having 5 to 8 in one night if it is a special occasion, such as a friend's bachelor party. Story 5. I quit at the beginning of this year after drinking heavily for the past 10 years. There are many people with alcohol use disorder in my family, and I simply got tired of the chaotic problems. I live a much quieter life now. Story 6. I am a lot older than you but partied in a similar way for a long time. Catches up with you. That amount of drinking is objectively very unhealthy. I am working on year 3 of sobriety and feel great. If I could go back in time, I would quit drinking much sooner. You trick yourself into thinking you need it for a good time, but you do not. Constantly drinking suppresses your potential in ways that are hard to understand when you are in the middle of it. I highly recommend you consider a change. If you can get past the first 60 to 90 days of sobriety, it gets easier. Eventually, at least for me, you stop thinking about it all the time. Story 7. 42 here. 2 beers a week is the high end of normal for me. Maybe a third if I am working outside. Nothing like a cold beer after doing a load of yard work. I mostly stopped drinking because the hangovers are not worth it. Story 8. I am 41 and drink about the same as you. Not as much during the week, but I still have 6 to 8 drinks most Saturdays. If it is a lake or beach weekend or a college football Saturday, maybe 10 to 15 drinks. I am highly successful in my career and family life. I try to do a dry month in either January or February most years. Story 9. A drink every couple of months, no marijuana, no nicotine. A very different person from who I was a few years ago, drinking and smoking weed every night, plus cigarettes and vaping. Never going back. Story 10. Somewhere between 0 to 2 drinks per week, usually 0. The hangovers have become rough, and I hate not being productive the next day. Side note, you may not think of yourself as an alcoholic, but as a healthcare professional, I would completely watch for signs of alcohol withdrawal with that amount of drinking. Story 1146, maybe a weeknight beer here and there, and probably 3 to 5 drinks on the weekends. Rest in peace the party days. Story 12, here is a real answer. It gets worse. Turning 32, I take about 8 to 10 shots a night, along with marijuana and cigarettes. It is hard to stop now, and it gets expensive. Things also start to hurt. Story 13, it depends on the week, what I'm doing, where I'm at, if I'm traveling for work, etc. Home doing nothing. Probably 2 to 3 drinks a week. Is playoff hockey happening and my team involved? Yes. Probably drinking a lot. Stanley Cup, hammered win or lose the entire time. Parade, yes, intoxicated. Been there. Is there a punk show going on? That's 2 beers. Is there a gala or some sort of event? Yes, dressing up and having champagne. Is it some sort of anniversary? Having a bottle of something. Whose birthday is it this week? I guess there's a toast. Holiday barbecue, actually. These are my sorry I'm not drinking days and I have a beer. Kind of the lame one here. There are many things that can add to your normal drinking levels. The key is this. Don't add it to your usual drinks per week. Story 14. I drink every day of the week. No kids, no wife. I limit my alcohol intake to 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. I do not drink beer, but I have a vodka and Fresca nightly. I have a mid-level job. I set the time frame for drinking so it would not get out of control. Time has proven otherwise, but I have no reason to change at this point. It is my own little nightly vacation for myself, and this is an honest reply. Midwest. Story 15. Late 40s. No treatment due to chemotherapy since the liver is already tax processing the medication I am taking to combat cancer. Story 16:30. Depending on my weekends. In a normal week, I think about 4 bottles mostly every Friday. On weekends, it depends on what I am doing. Story 17. I am 32 years old. I weightlift Monday through Friday and run at least 3 times a week. I try to balance my diet. About 80% of the year, I drink a 6-pack on Friday evenings and a 6-pack in the summer on Saturdays while being lazy by the pool. I occasionally have happy hour with colleagues during the week. I also work a corporate job, so the stress is cyclical and can encourage drinking that extends into some weeknights during the other 20% of the year. Story 18. I am 34 years old. I spent the last 2.5 years drinking nearly all day, every day to the extreme. I came into an inheritance and lived alone, so I was drinking 9.5% beer, 12 at a time. When I started gaining too much weight because of all the calories, I switched to 8% hard seltzer and drank 12 of them by noon. I would hop on my bicycle or walk down to the liquor store to pick up another 12, crawl into bed with the cardboard, and leave 2 to 3 for the morning when I woke up. I never really drank spirits because I figured it would probably kill me. Looking back, I was obviously in a deep depression, and I am in a much healthier place now. I still drink, but not during the week, and I run about 20 miles Monday through Friday as a way to keep my evenings busy and away from the beer fridge. Beers will still lead me to a binge during the weekend, but I am proud of how much I have pulled back. That is partly due to finally seeing a psychiatrist, getting my medications right, and adding naltrexone to the mix. Depression is a vicious cycle, and when you add alcohol to the mix, it becomes worse. I encourage anyone who feels like they are drinking too much to reach out to someone they trust. Story 19:25, and it depends on the week. It could be 1 or 2 one week and then 10 the next. I am more of a binge drinker, so I do not really drink during the week, but if someone is having a party or get together on the weekend, it can get a little wild. I would say an average of 3 to 4 a week. Story 20. I am 37 years old. I have a beer with dinner a few times a week. Maybe once every 6 months, I will go out and have 4 to 5 drinks in an evening. That is the maximum these days. Story 21. 2 to 3 beers over the course of 5 to 6 weeks. Although I used to smoke marijuana daily until about a month ago, now I just smoke about once a week. I do not mind unsolicited advice from wise older men here, to be honest. Story 22. I used to drink between 12 to 24 drinks per night, 2 to 4 nights a week when I was 24. Then I became an alcoholic and couldn't leave my home in the morning without drinking. Now I am 30. I drink anywhere from 1 to 5 drinks, usually averaging 2 to 3 drinks per night, 0 to 2 times a week, so an average of once per week. Story 23. If your choices in your 20s make you feel bad once a week, there is a good chance they will harm your health before you turn 50. This includes drinking alcohol, drug use, and eating unhealthy food. Story 24. I am a 37-year-old male who was recently diagnosed with diabetes, so I have stopped drinking alcohol. Before that, I probably drank 1 or 2 drinks a month, sometimes none. Honestly, I can take it or leave it. Sure, it is fun to get a buzz, but anything more than that results in a hangover the next day, which is not worth it. Story 25. As someone who is recently sober and works in the industry, I have to say this. While you may feel like it is not negatively impacting your immediate life, it is quietly holding you back from progressing and building for tomorrow. I am 35 now, but I was asking the exact same questions you are at 27. I asked them at 24 and 22, but I just was not ready to stop drinking. I was very aware of my habits and did not necessarily make excuses for my actions because I was not ashamed. In fact, I was even proud of myself most of the time for how much I could party like a pirate and still work 40 to 50 hours a week. But at the end of the day now, I look at a lot of that time as time wasted. I just was not motivated then like I am now. Wasted by being half out of it hungover or literally wasted. Getting intravenous drips just to keep going for the next concert or late-night bartending shift. I used to drink a lot for various reasons, and I miss it a lot. But I finally had the, oh my God, what am I doing? Moment. Took me a long time. When I was 27, I was still raging through the night, drinking as a functional alcoholic, but an alcoholic all the same. I regret drinking as heavily as I did for so long, but in the moment, for all those years, I did not care. I am married now and have built a life that I do not want to lose, and that was a big motivation. I did not want to get caught up making mistakes that would set me back again or lose what I have worked so hard to have, even if it is small. Even if drinking heavily was not negatively impacting my life, it absolutely never helped me grow in truly meaningful ways. Story 26. I quit drinking when I was 37. I went on some medications for a heart problem, and my doctor told me to really watch my drinking while on them. I find it easier to just not drink at all than to worry about it. As for the history of my drinking timeline, late teens to early 20s, blackout drunk multiple nights per week. Mid to late 20s, I would get absolutely smashed on Saturday night but did not drink much otherwise. Early to mid 30s, I would get drunk on special occasions like my birthday or New Year's Eve, but I rarely had more than 2 to 3 drinks at a sitting outside of that. Story 27. I am 40 years old and I do not drink alcohol. I quit almost 2 years ago. Alcohol is a 2-carbon chain that causes cancer. Your body fights it until it no longer can. Story 28. I am now 21 and have not consumed alcohol for at least a year. When I was 18 to 19, I went to clubs every Friday and Saturday night, consuming at least 10 drinks each night, totaling about 20 to 30 drinks over 2 days. Alcohol definitely affects you even if you do not immediately feel it, and it is quite expensive. I quit because I matured, lost contact with most of my school friends, and having a girlfriend made me prioritize other things besides going out frequently and getting intoxicated. Now, I only drink if I am invited to a birthday party or similar event, and 90% of the time, I remain sober and drive. Story 29. Almost 40, maybe 5 a month. I go out with some old friends about once a month, and that is the only time I drink. It is at most 5 drinks. Story 30. I consider myself a social drinker and have about 3 to 4 alcoholic drinks on Friday and Saturday nights. I do not usually drink during the week because I am too busy. Story 31. The damage you do to your organs will always be there. It just makes it harder to keep drinking like that every weekend if it does not lead to any disease. As you get older, those hangovers will only get worse. Story 32. I turned 30 in about a week. I probably have 8 to 10 in a week. It's a little higher than I probably should, but I don't like the taste of most soft drinks. Story 33. 40s and may have 1 to 2 drinks a year. Always been like that. For years in college, I can count on one hand the times I got drunk. Story 34. I am 34 years old and usually have about 3 to 4 drinks per week. I drink less most weeks and more if I am camping or attending a barbecue. Story 35. I am 25 years old and I only drink when I go to the bar, which happens once a month. How much will I drink? About 10 to 15 Jägerbombs, and then to sober up, I will have some vodka and cola to sip on. Story 36. I used to binge drink on Fridays and Saturdays, typically low-quality alcohol. Now I have maybe a couple of drinks a month, but high-quality bourbon. Your body will thank you for it. Story 37. I only drink socially when I am out with people and almost never drink from Sunday to Wednesday. How much I drink is really variable. I can go 3 to 4 weeks without drinking, but then I might have a weekend with about 15 drinks on Friday and Saturday. Story 38. I am also 27. I stopped drinking on January 1st to challenge myself. I am doing the whole year. I drank similar amounts to you. Obviously, not all my problems have disappeared, but I have been sleeping much better, losing weight, and feeling great. Since the end of January, I have had very few cravings. Story 39. I am 39 years old and I drink maybe once or twice a year, sometimes not at all. I used to party hard, but I decided I like who I am better when I am sober. Story 40. I do not drink. It is quite foolish how society promotes it. It destroys the mind, body, and soul. Story 41. 3 years into being 40. Friday and Saturday only. I hate having any type of hangover or anything to make me feel bad when I have to work. So unless I have an incredibly bad day at work, I'll limit drinks to those 2 days. And even then, only if I feel like it. I want to say maybe 4 to 6 a night unless I am camping or deep-sea fishing, then I go all out. But outside of those very specific scenarios, way less than I used to. Story 42. I'm 34 years old. On average, I do not drink alcohol during the week. Yearly, I may drink twice with friends, having 2 or 3 mixed drinks to help mask the taste of alcohol. I grew up with an alcoholic father, so the thought of being like him is very off-putting. I do not mind not drinking, and my friends do not try to pressure me to join them. Story 43. I am 33 years old and have a drink or 2 a couple of nights per week. Typically, I consume 3 to 6 drinks in a week. If there is a reason to celebrate, I sometimes drink more than 15 drinks in a day for events like a bachelor party or a wedding, but those occasions are becoming rarer. Story 44. 34-year-old male. I only drink 1 to 2 hard ciders or hard seltzers every other holiday or whenever I feel like having a drink. That is it. Story 45. Mid-30s and I drink almost no alcohol. Once or twice a year, my wife and I purchase a bottle of wine and take around 2 months to finish it. We are just not big drinkers. Story 46. The last time I drank was 3 months ago. Other than that, I avoid alcohol. You do not need it like some people say. 2 of the men in my family died from alcoholism, so I am doing this for them. Story 47. Decided to slow down last year to try to avoid gaining weight. If I am just at home, I will only drink 1 on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. If I am out doing something with friends, I will have a few more. Story 48. In my late 40s, I have a cocktail maybe 5 to 8 times a year. I may have a glass of wine on special occasions. I have not been drunk in about 20 years. Story 49-0. It was never my thing. I always felt out of place drinking it and genuinely do not like the taste of any of it. It all just tastes like ethanol, so I am not a fan. Story 50. Late 40s. About 6 drinks a week, spread over almost each day. I am a huge microbrew fan and enjoy drinking it with or without some alcohol content. I am starting to question whether I should cut back, but it feels pretty moderate and controllable. I would love to cut out the calories and the cost, but it is very enjoyable to me. I was drinking 1 to 2 beers a night in recent years and decided that was a little too much. Story 51. I am 43 years old and have 0 drinks, maybe 1 drink a month. 20 to 30 drinks a week, every week is alcoholic, my friend. And yes, it is impacting your life in ways you have not realized. Story 52. You are mostly going to hear from people who are proud of their low or no alcohol intake. Those who are not proud of it probably do not even want to write it out or acknowledge it. I am 42 years old and have gradually reduced my beer consumption. I now have sober days on Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday. Wednesdays are limited to 2 strong beers. Fridays and most Saturdays are 4 to 8 16-ounce light beers. If I reach 8, I feel unwell the next day. Story 53. I am 37 years old and I have not had a drink in months. I have never been an alcoholic, despite what my dad might say for some bewildering reason. I quit drinking entirely for a few years, from around 2017 to 2019. Since then, I still do not drink very often, maybe a few times a year. When I quit, I was drinking very heavily, but it did not take much for me to stop. Story 54. 30. Don't drink anymore. I didn't have any huge realization and wasn't addicted. Just kind of phased out of it. I used to always have a couple of drinks when I stayed up and played World of Warcraft, but yeah, I just kind of don't anymore. I'll still drink at a party or whatever, but not at home alone. Story 55. 76. Almost never. Maybe once a quarter, like somebody else said. I do not need to be impaired to have a good time. Story 56. I am 26 and work in construction. When I realized drinking during the week made it easier to wake up at 4 a.m. for my alarms because I was a lighter sleeper, I didn't hold back. 4 to 6 drinks on the weekdays and more than 12 on the weekends. I recently took a break to focus on physical health, and after you get some momentum, it feels good to do well. It is still hard to refuse a nightcap, but you have to tell yourself all or nothing. Story 57. 43 and a six-pack will last more than 2 months at my house. I use more alcohol for cooking than I do for drinking. When I was in my 20s, it was probably closer to what you are going through. We usually went through a case or 2 of beer, plus cocktails and whatever we might get at the bar over a weekend. Story 58. 65. 1 or 2 each evening after work. Occasionally more on weekends or social occasions. I take breaks for 2 to 3 weeks at a time to check myself and let my body rest. I should quit for my health, though. Story 59. Early 30s and I drink 0 alcoholic drinks per week. Maybe once in a blue moon, I will have 1 alcoholic drink, but just 1. Story 60. Probably averages out to once a week at most. I'm a really lightweight, 8 drinks at most and I am out. The negative impact was the heavy feeling that lingers. Spending about 2 days in a daze did not really seem worth it. Looking at how alcohol affects our body, it is basically a low-impact toxin that our body cannot get rid of fast enough. I have stopped frequently drinking now, but still have a couple of drinks at a good party. Now I drink to loosen up a little and stop before I feel the happy uplift. Story 61. Maybe about 8 a week unless there is a holiday weekend. Drinking is fun. Just be sure to stay hydrated. Story 62. Once I hit around 32 years old, I did not recover from drinking anymore. You start to feel how it is damaging you the next day. Story 63. 42. Most weeks I do not drink any. Occasionally I will order a beer or glass of wine when we go out to eat. Once in a while, a cocktail if waiting for a table. I cannot help thinking that 20 to 30 drinks a week is at least approaching severe alcoholism. Story 64. I've ebbed and flowed throughout my life. Currently, I have a couple of beers with dinner a few times a month and go out maybe 2 or 3 times and drink 10 to 15. Then I might take a month or 2 off where I don't drink at all. I stop completely from time to time just because I don't feel like it. A couple of times in my life, I drank heavily and cut back or took a break because it was a problem. Not a problem that impacted my life significantly, But more that I thought to myself, I am drinking way too much. In college and in my mid-30s. I am 45 now. In college, Fridays consisted of a six-pack of Busch Light Tall Boys and a bottle of bourbon. Saturday was the last couple of shots from that bottle, then anywhere from 18 to 24 beers. I didn't drink much during the week then, but my weekends were a lot. In my 30s, I drank pretty much every day for a few months, 15 to 20 drinks on the weekends, and a six-pack or a bottle of wine every day during the week. That was a lot, so I took a break for a few months. Story 65, almost 40 and still drinks like in college. No health problems so far, but has messed up life a handful of times. Story 66, 29. A glass of wine or a bit of homemade liqueur every so often. I have expensive tastes, so going out to the bar and drinking cheap alcohol is not going to do it. Story 67. I am nearly 40 years old and I drink occasionally. The amount you are consuming is unhealthy. For your own sake, you should reduce your intake significantly. Story 68. If you had asked me a year ago, 30 years old, consuming 10 to 15 drinks a night, after having cut back from 4.5 liters of vodka a week from ages 26 to 29. Today, I do not. Story 69, 35. Once a year at Christmas. Usually only one beer. No hard liquor. I used to be a raging alcoholic in my 20s. It very nearly killed me. For a couple of years, the only good thing in my life was getting blackout drunk on cheap whiskey. Never again. Story 70, 26. None. I am not trying to virtue signal. It just tastes bad and makes me feel dizzy. Also, it is expensive. I would rather not acquire that taste. Story 71. I am 44 years old. I probably drink 3 to 4 bottles of wine a week and much more on vacation or special occasions. Otherwise, I may have 2 to 3 pints of vodka a week, mostly on the weekends. I work 50 to 60 hours a week and have kid activities on weekdays, so I let loose on the weekends. Mondays are tough. I am pretty sure my drinking days are coming to an end. I have started using edibles, and that along with going to the gym gives me the same relaxing feeling and helps with stress. I don't feel bad on Monday anymore. I tried alcohol-free this weekend and had an incredible amount of energy, so I think I will continue with that. I grew up in a beach town where everyone drinks heavily and works a lot, but we are all slowing down now. Enjoy it in your youth and know that the time to slow down is different for everyone. Story 72. Mid-30s, probably 4 to 8 per week these days. I have a game night with friends on Friday night, usually have a 4-pack for that. If I am golfing that weekend, maybe 2 to 4 during the game, but sometimes 0. In my 20s, I used to drink far more. I decided to make an active effort to keep it under 10 per week when I turned 30. Story 73. I drink close to 2 liters of tequila a day. I am working with my doctor on a quit plan. I am highly functional, but this is not sustainable. Story 74. I am 32 years old and I only drink occasionally. I enjoy the feeling of the buzz and can become addicted, so I am very careful with it. Story 75, 37, maybe 3 to 5 times a year. I am half Chinese, and I experience Asian flush. I know my triggers when it comes to alcohol and can avoid them, but I just do not enjoy drinking much. I have a drink or two with friends when the occasion arises, but it has never been a significant part of my life. Carrying the gene for Asian flush means I am at higher risk for certain types of cancer, so I would like to keep my risk low. When I was in my 20s, I drank a bit more, but even then it was rare, usually just on a night out once in a blue moon. Story 76. 60-year-old male. Consumes 1 to 2 alcoholic drinks per week, but sometimes goes up to 3 to 4 weeks without drinking. Prefers herbal tea after work to relax. Story 77. 26. 0 alcohol. I have a very low tolerance for it, and more importantly, I lose control of myself. Story 78. 37 sober as of January 1st, 2025. This will be my 3rd long-term sobriety. My longest streak was 5 years before my mother got sick and passed away. I used to drink almost every day. Story 79. I drink 20 to 30 alcoholic beverages a week. It has not negatively impacted my life in any way. That is what you think now, but you are very wrong. Story 80. 40 and 0. It is not for me. I tried it for a while, and every time the enjoyment was less and the hangover was worse. I gave up last year. Story 81. I am 51 years old. The last time I drank alcohol was on my 50th birthday. I have been alcohol-free since then. I still get intoxicated just with psychedelics instead. Story 82. If I go out with friends or by myself during the week, I might have 5 drinks. Otherwise, I may not have any. Story 83. Drank like a fish in school. Got a job bartending during my last semester of undergraduate studies. Haven't had a drink since 45 years. Story 84. It does not seem to impact your life until it does. By then, damage has been done. It is impacting you. You are just unaware of the effects until they accumulate enough that you can no longer ignore them. To answer your question, I am 60 years old and have 2 to 3 drinks per week on average. Story 85. I have alcohol maybe once every few months. It makes me physically feel unwell, so it is easy to abstain. I am glad there are companies like Athletic Brewing making good non-alcoholic beverages when I want a beer but do not want the effects of alcohol. Story 86. I am 35 years old and usually do not drink alcohol during the week. I typically have 1 to 2 drinks on my birthday and Christmas, but I have skipped drinking for the past 2 years. Story 87. I am 25 now. When I was 23, I decided to take an entire month off from drinking. I never considered myself to have a problem, but I could definitely cut back on my alcohol. It is amazing what 1 month of no drinking can do for you. 8 months after my dry month, I got very drunk on Halloween, and I was depressed for the next 3 days. I did not get hungover, but my mental state was miserable. I used to be able to drink like that before, but I never experienced anxiety related to drinking. Story 88. I am 54 years old and have been sober from alcohol for just over a year. For me, alcohol takes away everything I love for a bit of fun. My days are numbered, as are everyone's. I am trying to lessen the negatives and add positives. I have lost weight, celebrated our 30th anniversary, and finished building a lifelong dream car, all in the year of 0 alcohol. I treat myself to some cannabis, which adds and does not subtract currently. Story 89. I will have a beer on Friday at the office with my coworkers. I golf once a month, sometimes more often, and usually have 2 to 3 drinks on the course, something light like a seltzer. My wife is sober, so I do not bring anything into the house or drink around her. Story 90. 18 to 22. Blackout every Thursday to Friday. 23 to 28. 8 to 15 drinks every Friday and Saturday. 29 to 33. 8 to 15 drinks per week. 34 to 35. 8 to 15 drinks per month and often go 1 to 3 months without drinking. I have never really drank on weekdays. I am pretty fit and active. Hangovers got too bad to keep training intensely. I was over being tired on Sundays and Mondays. Story 91. 50s. 2, maybe 3 drinks in a typical week. I never fully quit drinking, and I would not say I was ever an alcoholic. But I would say that at one point when I was about 25, I had a drinking problem. 2 things happened. I ended up in a position where I had to choose between my drinking and one of the best girlfriends I ever had, and I chose the bottle. I did the math and realized I was spending more on alcohol than rent. I had to have a serious talk with myself and decide who was going to be in charge, me or the alcohol. That led to me cutting back drastically. I am lucky that I could. Not everyone can. Story 92. I am 19 years old, have never drunk alcohol, and never will. I have seen how it has ruined people around me and do not want to take any chances. I am aware that moderate drinking is acceptable, but my point still stands. Story 93. Most weeks, I do not drink at all. Some weeks, I drink 1 to 2 times. Every once in a while, I drink as if I am still pulling a bottle of liquor at a time. Story 94. 38. 0. I used to drink a lot with my friends, but now it is all just work and kids. I do not have time to go out and drink or even just at home. I cannot handle it anymore, and I do not want the headache the next day. Story 95. I am 45 years old, and it depends. Usually, my wife and I share a bottle of good red wine on a Friday night when we dine out. If there is a birthday or event over the weekend, I will have a few gin and tonics. Usually, I have a beer or two over lunch on weekends. We are child-free, so it varies greatly from weekend to weekend. Some weekends we stay in and play video games, while other times we go out and find nice places to have lunch. Story 96. Either this person is dedicated to being social or dedicated to drinking and using socializing as an excuse. But seriously, if you are going out and drinking most weekends, you are objectively burning a hole in your wallet and gaining weight, as you have mentioned. Ultimately, you are the judge of whether the lifestyle is unhealthy for you, but in my opinion, it seems like you are seeking reassurance about your lifestyle from the internet because you know it at least looks bad on the surface. So seriously, take an internal look at your state of happiness and decide if you want to slow down or not. Story 97, 44 and sober now, but not that long ago I was drinking 6 to 10 drinks a day every day. Except for going out or social settings, it was closer to 20. I sobered up because it was taking too big a toll on my life and health. If you are concerned about your drinking, it is time to think about what it means to you. Story 98. I am technically not supposed to drink alcohol with the medication I am taking, so I save drinking for special occasions. I have not drunk in at least a couple of years. Honestly, I cannot recall the last time I drank. Story 99. I am 48 years old. I drink alcohol very seldom, usually only when the best before date expires on the few cans of beer I buy each year. I do not drink alcohol alone. None of my close friends drinks much either. I have a low tolerance for alcohol because I drink it very rarely. I dislike the day after feeling, even if I do not get a real hangover. I just feel slow without a headache or any other symptoms. Story 100. At 30, I stopped drinking alcohol over 3 years ago, even though it was never really a problem. It simply was not adding any value to my life and was not making me a better husband, father, or son, so it no longer fit into the equation. Story 101. Hate to tell you this, but it is affecting your health cumulatively. Even in counties where everyone drinks a lot, 5 drinks a night or 15 a week is considered alcoholism and extremely detrimental to health. There is no such thing as a healthy amount of drinking, but most doctors will hesitantly admit that keeping it under 3 drinks a week will limit the damage. Story 102. I am 47 years old. I have been married for almost 13 years. I drink less than once every 4 months. When I do drink, it is never more than the equivalent amount of alcohol found in 1 or 2 cans of regular beer. I do not consume low-alcohol beer. Story 103. I'm 74, and when I was your age, I drank a little less than you. By the time I was in my 30s, I was drinking about the same as you. Then it started to affect my job, my relationships, and my view of life in general. I didn't quit. It got worse. Finally, at 46, I gave it up and joined the recovery program. No more feeling terrible. Life began to make more sense. I'm not saying that's where you are going. I'm only saying I believe it's important to keep it in mind and watch for signs that it might be becoming a problem. Story 104. I was drinking about 10 drinks a week on average on weekends. Then I developed atrial fibrillation and decided to cut back. I have been dry for 3 weeks so far. I am 30. So, brother, just know that all that alcohol eventually catches up to you. Story 105. I am 35 and drink probably a few times a month, usually just a glass or 2 with dinner. After your 20s are over, the novelty kind of wears off. Drinking with your friends is fun, but dealing with the aftermath gets tiring the older you get. Most of the older alcoholics I knew were pretty much perpetually drunk, so they never dealt with severe hangovers and the overall unpleasant feeling afterward. I didn't exactly quit drinking, but as I mentioned, the novelty of heavy drinking wore off quickly. I went from being able to party hard to being debilitated for a day. My first true hangover was ironically on my 30th birthday, when I drank a bottle of Captain Morgan and was basically incapacitated the entire next day. That had never happened to me before. I would get mild headaches, but I was more or less functional. It just stopped being fun. Story 106. I am 30 years old and do not drink alcohol. Maybe 1 to 3 drinks a year. I started drinking when I was 18 and would have 7 to 8 drink binges at parties until I was 21. I have had more than my fill of alcohol and prefer to stay away since alcoholism runs in my family. Never mind the diabetes, high blood pressure, and liver and kidney issues. Alcohol is just bad for you. I can drink water like a champion now. Story 107. I have rules. I do not drink more than 2 days in a row and I do not take less than 2 days off. That said, I love alcohol. The only time it was a problem was during the coronavirus disease because I started brewing huge batches. That is why I have rules now. Story 108. I started binge drinking during a low point in my life a few years ago, and my reliance on alcohol worried me. I have been sober for 3 years now and have little interest in drinking again. Story 109. I drink about once a week, but when I do, I find myself having about 10 shots and maybe 1 beer. I drink to feel buzzed or drunk. I enjoy drinking socially. Sometimes, if there is an after party at someone's home, which happens once every 3 to 4 months, I will have another 10 shots because I do not have to pay at an after party. Story 110. I am 34 years old, with my birthday next month. I drank heavily in my 20s, Wednesday to Sunday. Now I am married with 2 children. I drink maybe once or twice a month. A beer, rarely 2 when out at dinner. At home, maybe 3 mixed drinks or 2 to 3 beers. I lost a lot of weight by stopping. I was at 250 pounds and now weigh between 220 and 225 pounds. It is an expensive habit as well. I save money and do not regret it like I used to. I could have invested that money into something else. Story 111. Same case as you, exactly the same. My only advice from your position is to try not to drink for a couple of weeks or to drink with a purpose, such as a game or going out with friends for a birthday celebration. Just make sure that you don't spend more than you should. Alcohol is just an addition when going out, not your whole life. Story 112. From ages 17 to 24, I drank every weekend, maybe 24 to 48 beers. Now at 28, I try to keep it under control, mostly because of all the calories. When I'm not at work, which has a total zero alcohol policy even during free time, I try to limit myself to 2 to 3 beers on Saturdays. Story 113. I am 20 years old, and although I am still at an earlier stage, my drinking pattern is similar to yours. I go out on the weekends and usually have between 5 and 10 drinks, depending on the occasion. During the week, I hardly drink because I know I have to be at 100% the next day. Like you, Sundays are usually difficult with a hangover and regret for overindulging in drinks. It has not affected my life much so far, but I have noticed a little tiredness and sometimes less energy. I have even thought about cutting back on alcohol, although I do not think it is a serious problem yet. Story 114. I drink every 1 to 2 nights per week. Sometimes, once in a blue moon, I don't drink if I have something really important to do. But I drink a lot and stay active. I gave up drinking during the week unless it's a good game during football season, usually a late Sunday game. I'm an all-or-nothing type of guy, so I think it's a waste of time and money to drink if I'm not going to get drunk. Drinking water throughout the night helps with headaches. I stay pretty busy during the week with work, working out, and trying to sleep early. Everything is okay in moderation. Story 115. I am sober Sunday through Thursday. I drink on Friday and Saturday, usually at least a 12-pack myself, and at night at clubs I have 4 to 6 bottles. What was causing me a lot of problems was mixing my drinks with Red Bull and Monster Energy drinks. Now, I just chase them down with water, which helps a lot the next day. Story 116. I am in my 30s and I am an alcoholic. I relapsed recently and now I have quit again. Alcoholics Anonymous helps. It is easier to stay sober than to get sober. I recommend cutting back or quitting entirely. The weight gain is not good and being an alcoholic is difficult. Also, alcohol has no positive effects. It is strictly a poison that only harms you. Story 117. I used to drink a lot in college. I am 30 now and currently do not consume alcohol weekly. I have beer or wine on special occasions, maybe once every 3 to 6 months, with no more than 3 drinks in an evening. Getting drunk has no appeal to me anymore. Not that I no longer use alcohol as a social crutch or emotional escape. A social drink or two on a holiday or a good friend's birthday can be nice. I really enjoy the taste of wine and beer and see them as a special treat. However, it is not good for me, and I like how I feel without alcohol regularly. Story 118. Alcohol does have negative effects that build up over time. That is much over the recommended amount of alcohol. Maybe you could switch it up, and next weekend, every other time you want to order a drink, drink 2 waters slowly first. I bet you would have just as much fun, save money, and your liver and organs will thank you. As an alcoholic, I have experienced the negative effects. Alcohol is hard on the body. It causes inflammation and is a leading cause of cancer, cirrhosis of the liver, and other issues. So the damage compounds over time. If in a decade you are still drinking that much, it is bad news. Story 119. I drink on the weekends if I feel like it, maybe 3 to 4 drinks. Then, every once in a while, like every 3 to 6 months, I have a wild night where I go all out. When I was your age, I was partying every weekend. Eventually, the hangovers became not worth it. Story 120-41, and 0 to 1 drinks per year. I gave up drinking when it became an unnecessary expense and was no longer enjoyable. I never had a problem with or an addiction to drinking, and I do not consider myself sober, as I reserve that term for those courageously battling addiction. I never saw the appeal of losing control of my bodily functions or intentional impairment, but I understand why others might. Story 121, 27 and maybe once a month, but even then, not much at all. I had 1 beer the other night, and it was the first time I had drunk in maybe a month or two. Story 122. I am definitely more of a social drinker. During the work week, I have maybe 1 glass of red wine, but usually I do not like to drink on a work night because it makes me sleep too heavily. On weekends or during breaks, I have maybe 3 glasses of red wine in a week, with the occasional margarita or cocktail if I am out with friends. Story 123. I'm not a man, but my husband drinks exactly as much as I do, which is none anymore. We are both sober. We used to drink 15 to 20 drinks a week, nearly every day. Our mental health was very poor looking back. He was having an emotional affair. We both looked tired and unhealthy, carrying extra weight. We fought like territorial cats. The only time we could have sex was if we were both more drunk than usual. We are 33 and 35 now, and our bodies and wallets feel much better. He is faithful, I am happy, and the sex is much better. Our kids do not see us drinking can after can or putting them to bed with strange smells on our breath. Life is peaceful now for all of us. Before you ask, we absolutely were alcoholics. Whether it is severe or not does not matter as much as you might think. Story 124. About 2 bottles of spirits a week and 1 or 2 beers. I know it is a problem and I am trying to quit. Story 125. You are saying you are not an alcoholic, but to be honest, this level of drinking is almost the beginning stages of alcoholism. I used to drink the exact same amount. I thought I was fine, but slowly, over a few years, it increased 2 or 3 drinks during the work week, a few more if I did not have to go into work until later in the day. Next thing I knew, it was too late. You need to stop now while you are ahead. 2 to 3 drinks once a week is all you should be consuming at most. Story 126. 35, maybe like once every 2 weeks I will have a beverage. But that is about it. Even then, it is seasonal if that makes sense. I will go months without having anything. I have got beer in the fridge that I got like 9 months ago. I think that being a dad, I need to be on at all times. Story 127. At 31, I used to drink a lot less because it took a while to take effect. Now, after my gastric sleeve surgery, I feel it within 2 shots. I typically have a few shots or mixed drinks on Saturday night, and the rest of the nights I am sober. Story 128. I'm in my 60s and have alcohol maybe once every 3 to 6 months. In my younger days, I drank a bit more, but never much. It's not a prudish thing. It was primarily, hangovers weren't worth it. The people I liked when I was drinking were not people I liked and were, in fact, people I usually disliked when I was sober. Once I had a child at age 28, it became paramount for me to stay alive and healthy and act as a reliable provider and protector. None of those things are compatible with regular drinking. Story 129. That is actually severe consumption. You are seriously damaging your liver, kidneys, and pancreas. Just stop. It is not worth whatever you are after. If your friends like you less, they are not friends. I am not much older and have not had a sip for a few years because dialysis is on the table and my liver is toast. Story 130, 36 cents, and a bottle of sake will last me anywhere from 2 weeks to a month. I cannot consume anything gluten-related, and wine goes bad. I can drink tequila and do so on a night out, but that is also rare, maybe 4 or 5 times a year. I had 3 tequila waters at my company Christmas event. The last time I was actually drunk was not within the past year, probably longer, but I cannot remember. Story 131. A little more specific? Is the drink a shot of tequila, a glass of whiskey sour, or a pint of beer? I used to have a client whose definition of a drink meant a full bottle of whiskey all by himself. Story 132. I am 24 years old. I very rarely drink alcohol. It is not my preference. I might have champagne or wine during a special occasion. Story 133. 1 or 2 bottles of wine a month. Sometimes I have a 6-pack that I split over the weekend if I watch sports. I have stopped drinking before for 6 to 8 months to prove to myself that I could do it. I also gave up coffee to prove it to myself. Giving up alcohol is one of the best things you can do for your health. However, red wine has great antioxidants and pairs well with dinner, so I don't mind it. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.